Three things before moving on to arguments. Firstly, what this meme investing looks like is usually when Reddit or whatever social media platform actually picks a company as a meme company, for example, you're going to see people lining up to actually buy the meme stocks, for example, because it's a meme, let's buy it. Secondly, what this usually entails is that there's going to be a skyrocketing amount of stock value for the meme company at the beginning era of the meme itself, but usually that stock value is going to plummet the moment that the meme actually dies. For example, like GameStop, for example, the beginning of the meme of GameStop actually rose the company stock prices quite a high amount, but when the actual meme actually died, the company lost 20-30% of its stock value, for example. 30, this meme investing is usually accessible to everyone because people, can access memes rather than, journals or like stock market analytics, for example, or whatever, right? This is all bad. Why? Because number one, it usually entails a high amount of irrational people going into this meme investing, losing a significant amount of money. Secondly, it's also going to be bad for companies because it usually entails that companies are going to have to rely on short-term investment by these memesters that usually entails that the company can sustain its development and development. So under government, we're going to prove those two things. While under opposition, they're going to have to prove where most likely the people that are actually going into these companies are rational and they're not just going to hop into the bandwagon for the sake of easy profit, for example, it's in them, right? Two arguments then. Firstly, bandwagon effect, and second, in regard to companies. Firstly, bandwagon effect. As I stated before, usually the people that actually opted into this meme investing in the first place are rational people that don't know shit about the stock market, right? They're usually drawn in by either the meme or two, they're usually drawn in by the amount of like skyrocketing prices of like the stocks in on itself. They see GameStop rising in value over 30%, for example, and they see, hey, I should get a piece of the pie and actually get profit because the stock is actually going to go up and it's usually going to go up again and again and again, right? This is bad. Why? Two things. Number one, if they're irrational, for example, which is most likely going to be the case because they're only following the bandwagon, they're most likely not going to be able to sustain any kind of profit at all because they don't know how the stock market works. They don't know how to buy low and sell high, for example. They don't know how and when to actually sell, for example, and they don't know how to value a certain company. They don't know how to, for example, make sure that their stock and portfolio is actually going to be sustainable, for example, it's in their mind. So most likely they're going to lose profit in that regard. It's quite obvious, right? Because people that don't know shit about the stock market is obviously going to lose a lot of profit. Secondly, even if the rational, for example, is in their mind, we still believe that they're also going to lose a significant amount of profit. Why? Because most likely it's in their mind, you cannot value a company based on the meme itself. There's no metric for that. In the traditional stock market, people that are financially savvy, for example, can deem whether or not a company will lose out in its stock value based on its like fiscal year, their monetary policy, their profits, their product line, etc. And them, right? However, meme investment is special because it's not relying on any of those factors. It's only relying on one thing: the livelihood of the meme itself. Usually, as I stated before in my framework, the reason as to why these stocks actually exist and the stocks actually rise up is because of the meme itself, right? When the meme actually dies, you're usually going to see a plummeting of the stock value of a company itself. However, this plummeting of stock value cannot be predicted by anyone because notice that you literally have no way to equate whether or not a meme can actually die, for example. There's no precedent for that. Sometimes a meme can live up to like 10 months, for example, but sometimes a meme dies in 5 months or even 2 months, for example, so you cannot predict that. It literally depends on the memesters actually stop producing memes or when people get bored of a meme itself, which can happen over the course of 2 weeks or even can happen in the course of 3 days, for example, it's in their mind. So most likely, even if you're financially savvy, for example, you're also not going to be able to get any amount of profit because you're literally also going to have to play the guessing game, right? Thirdly, though, even if some people are going to succeed, which I knew that opposition is probably going to bring, right? Like the $50,000 that the people get from the GameStop meme sale, for example, it's Emma, right? Number one, it's only a significantly small amount of people. Most likely, these are the people that are actually just lucky, for example, that coincidentally sold the meme the moment where the meme actually dies down, for example. So most likely, these are going to be a small amount of people and not likely because of their skill, for example, it's Emma, right? But this is bad. Why? Because this creates a bad precedence, right? This says to people, and most likely, because this is most likely the news that are going to be sensationalized, right? Media, Reddit, and other social media platforms are going to see this and say, hey, this is quite good. Look at this person that actually got a significant amount of money because of this GameStop thing, right? And most likely, you're going to report on this only because most likely you're not going to report on 95% of people that actually lost in the meme war, for example, because who the fuck cares about that? You only care about people that are actually profiting this much because that's so absurd and that's so ridiculous and that's so sensational. So most likely, this is going to create a narrative for the other people in the future, right? Other people in the future are going to look back in the past and see this one guy only $50,000. But they forget the 95% of people actually investing in the meme investment, for example, actually lost quite a sum of profit following the bandwagon, for example, this element. So most likely, not only is it going to be only a small marginal benefit, even if some people succeed, but most people, due to the unstable nature of memes itself, and due to them not actually not having any like financial knowledge, most likely are going to lose a significant amount of profit. Secondly, then that's all for like people on the ground. Right? But what about companies, right? And the opposition is most likely going to say, "Hey, this is good because you're actually going to get a significant amount of rejection of capital towards the company in and of itself." However, this is actually bad for the companies because companies usually relies on a significant amount and a stable amount of capital stream from stocks, at least in their mind. Obviously, they use traditionally at least they use these stocks and the capital they gain from stocks to expand the facilities, expand the product line, hire more employees, etc. At least in them, right? However, when these memes actually die down and when there's going to be a plummet of stock value, for example, obviously they're going to have a loss of market share, going to have a loss of market value, and they're going to have a loss of capital as well. Meaning that they're also going to have to go up. The financial stream is obviously going to be lower than the operating cost that they utilized in the past when the stock market value is actually risen, for example. Meaning they cannot actually, sustain their investment in regard to facilities that they used before in the past. They cannot like hire more employees, for example. They may have to even cut off employees because this operating cost is not sustainable because the stock is actually going to be devaluing at such a high rate. So people are going to suffer in regard to the employee, the company itself, and the company itself is going to suffer this in them, right? Secondly, in regard to like liability, right? Obviously, companies is going to have to be held liable for investors. It's good because company is actually going to have to make rational decisions in order to satisfy their investors. However, the investors the new investment are literally memesters with LM, right? So in that span of 1 year, you literally have to cater to memesters and you're going to have to listen to the amount of memesters that literally have no business sense whatsoever. So you're going to spell good for the company because you're going to have to tell the company to do several things that have no regard to the business practices whatsoever. So most likely the company is going to fail this, right? So because this is going to be bad for companies, because companies are going to sit in regard to financing and in regard to decision making, and because it's bad for a majority of people, and mostly only going to profit 1% of people, we are very proud to propose to say that this does way more harm than good. Thank you very much.